Hi, this is Vanessa Marshall, the voice of Hera Syndulla, and you are listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
I like firsts. Good or bad, they're always memorable.
Everything's gonna be all right, kid.
You found the Rebel Base Card Podcast.
She may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts, kid.
I'm your host, Greg McLaughlin.
Have I made a few bad decisions? Sure.
We talk about cards, collecting Star Wars, and to people in the Star Wars community.
Don't worry, we're gonna meet up with some friends of mine.
Look for special episodes called The Breakfast Pack, talking about your favorite Star Wars shows.
We will never have a better chance than this.
All right, let's get started.
Well, perhaps it is time to begin again.
Welcome back, or if this is your first episode, welcome aboard. My name is Greg McLaughlin, and this is the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Hope y'all are having a great December as we sort of cruise into the holidays. They will be here and gone before you know it, but we still have a lot of great content. My guest is Luke Winchester. He is a stage host, presenter, and digital creator. We had a chance to meet back in July at London Film and Comic Con, and I've been dying to get a chance to talk with him. And what a great conversation. You're going to love it. You're going to love him. We'll be right back with more right after this.
This is Daz Davis, and you are listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
All right, welcome back. Just a couple of homestead keeping items before I get into my conversation with Luke Winchester, because we have had a little bit of card news of late. One of the most surprising ones to me came from StarWars.com, where Lucasfilm, Zero's 36 Studio, and CCG Lab announced that they are teaming up to create a digital card collectible game for both Android, iOS, and PC. It sounded like you could build decks with your favorite characters and battle with others. That was a surprise. But I would say, to me, in my head, now if you're thinking like, oh wait, they're Star Wars Card Trader, that is a little different. And I know in our conversations with Brendan Bernard and some of the other folks over at Star Wars Card Trader, the mechanics and the licensing do matter. And so you can have a collectible card game separate from, like, say, a digital game or an iOS type game. I know that what you have to get is a little different. And so when I thought about what kind of game this could be and why it wasn't from Topps, I can say, yes, digital licenses matter. But I would say if this was something like Marvel Snap, that's not, of course, either of these companies, but something that was very quick, something you could collect and build decks and battle very quickly, then I'm just going to go in my head. In my head canon, this may be what something like this is. Maybe not the exact mechanics because, of course, of copyright and all that, but something that if you're going to make it an iOS or an Android type game and it's going to be very quick, I know that, with Star Wars Card Trader, and you collect and you can get in and get out. You can be there as long as you want. You can do trades and all their kind of things. But with something like battling and things like this, the game itself, the mechanic probably has to be fairly quick. So I'll be kind of curious how this game develops and its timetable. I think if I went to a quote that said, together with Zero, 36 Studio, and Lucasfilm Games, we're creating something truly exciting for players and fans alike, an experience that celebrates the joy and play in a galaxy far, far away. And this is from Corey Jones. He's the CEO of CCG Lab. He says, our mission is to craft an experience that captures the thrill, adventure, and the heart of Star Wars, a game that feels instantly familiar yet constantly surprising. The opportunity to develop a game for the Star Wars galaxy is a profound honor in our studio, and that was added from Hades Liu, the head of 036 Studio. All it says here is just stay tuned to StarWars.com for more information. I'll be following this along because, of course, we've been kind of following things like Star Wars Unlimited, right? That the physical collectible card game that you can battle, as well as Star Wars Card Trader and all that. So I'm always excited for more in the space. I like more people collecting. Hey, that's my bag, man. I'm telling you. But that was kind of surprising. Now, we talked before about the Galaxy Chrome, the physical release from Topps that was out. It came out, I want to say, last week as I'm recording this. But it's out. The cards look great. Of course, the boxes, just like with a lot of the other physical product and the upcoming Hyperspace, which is coming out later this month, these boxes tend to be in the $200 to $300 range. They are a little still on the higher end, but I started kind of snagging up some of the loose physical on eBay just to kind of get my hands on the product. The one set that I am really excited about is an insert set from Chrome Galaxy, and that is, I think, a 10 or 15 card set, insert set from Joe Caroni. We've had him on the podcast before. Amazing artist. All these artists, let me tell you, in Galaxy, all the sketch card list is amazing, and it's been great this week and last week to see a lot of their work kind of being debuted. Because a lot of times they can't show you the sketches they're working on until the product launches. So at any rate, but if you follow my Instagram, a lot of times I'll repost the stuff in the stories. And so if you see my story come up, a lot of times you'll see a lot of the great work the sketch artists do, as well as cards that I see are cool, accounts I see are cool. It's a nice way to kind of augment the channel, as it were.
Hi, this is Josh Trout, artist for Tops, and you are listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
Galaxy Chrome is out now. I do expect it to be in the Star Wars Card Trader app pretty soon, as well as this Hyperspace, which was, do we need all these releases in December around Christmas time? No, but Hyperspace, and if you're saying, Greg, Hyperspace I think came out earlier this year. Yes, the 2024 Hyperspace physical release came out in February, and there's another one for 2025 coming up here at the end of the month. So very similar. I'll be posting more of that on the Instagram channel to kind of give you an idea what those cards look like. Another portrait type set. I know that they are theming this one to visit some of the planets, and so some artwork cards have, scenes from other some of the planets in the Star Wars galaxy. I like that kind of take. I like any chance to see something just more than just the portrait cards that have been of these sets of the last few years, especially in the Fanatics era. A lot of portrait type cards, less of the the scenes of, but there we go. As we get into 2026 with the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, I'll be very curious how the movie cards are going to kind of look, and are we going to have the journey to the Series 1 and Series 2 like we did for the sequels? Hard to say, but 2026, I'm very interested in seeing where cards are going in that year as well. Doesn't seem to be any let up in the excitement that I see from people who go on Whatnot, the Breakers, and all this kind of stuff. Still a lot of excitement about Star Wars cards, Pokemon cards. If you heard me talk this year about all the conventions I got a chance to go to and all that stuff in the space, but once again, a lot of the high-end stuff is pushing itself to the forefront. And so if you're just a casual collector to a serious collector like me, sometimes it's hard unless you go to secondary markets or you go to card conventions where you can pick up stuff maybe a little bit on the cheap. I recently found a cache at a local toy store of the 1997 Star Wars Vehicles release, which I had sealed, but I haven't had a chance to check out the loose. Vehicles was sort of an odd set that, if you find it in the 90s, it was originally supposed to be a Galaxy set, because we had those first 3 Galaxy sets in 1993, 4, and 5. But this one was an art set all on vehicles. Small set, not very many big hits, as it were, but I'll be probably breaking some of these on Instagram just because I've been wanting to see some of these cards myself, and I thought you might like to break along with me and just kind of see what these cards look like. I'll be excited. I also there's some loose packs that I've picked up that I'm like, you know what, I need to do an Instagram break. It's been a long time since I've done one.
Hi everyone, I'm Bobby Sussman.
And I'm Nadia Kovacs.
We're the Galaxy Edge Explorers, and you are currently listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid!
Star Wars Card Trader had a big update, and so its interface looks a lot like BUNT, one of the other Topps digital apps. It makes sense. A lot of these apps tend to kind of try stuff out, and then eventually the other apps kind of follow suit. So a little things have moved on the interface. Instead of that home button, you'll see like a menu along the bottom, and they have moved some of the things to one of the buttons on the bottom. But for the most part, the mechanics are still the same. I know they talked about changing some of the trade mechanics to maybe protect folks from getting a lot of spam trades or a lot of bogus ones, and so they might be talking about verifying accounts or trading, just to make sure that when you're not getting pelted with bogus trades, and also to make things maybe easier for you to trade. But more on that as it comes along. And lastly, like I said, although we have done way more than 300 episodes, episode 200 of the podcast, that's what I'm kind of working on towards the end of the year. I know there's only a couple weeks left but some bits and bobs of conversations that I didn't get a chance to slip into the main podcast this year. And we still have one more show with Kara DJ. I know I've been holding on to that one for a while, but we did a break of Star Wars Chrome, as well as talking about a recent cache of cards that she had collected and how we went about saying, did we want to maybe put those off for grading? Do we want to get rid of some of them, sell them, and things like that? So great conversation with Kara DJ. I know still coming up this year.
Stay on target. We're too close. Stay on target.
So a lot of great content, but this episode is talking with Luke Winchester, and we'll be right back with it right after this.
Hi there, this is Dan Zare from Coffee with Kenobi, and you are listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
We're in attack position now, sir.
Hold here.
We're not going to attack.
I have my orders from the Emperor himself. He has something special planned for him. We only need to keep him from escaping.
Luke, one of the things I kind of wanted to start off with, going back to Rental Family. I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody about Rental Family, but when I saw the trailer for it a little while ago, I was like, I must be there. And the other reason I'm thinking of this is, one, it's about 10, 12 degrees outside. It's super cold. Fahrenheit, by the way. It's super cold. We are in, mid-December. We're coming up on a holiday season, which in some cases should be a very happy season. But, thinking of Rental Family, thinking of kind of what we do, the connections that Rental Family kind of talks about, I think you have to agree that it's so important when you're in our community, as it were, of these connections with everybody and what they mean to people, even on small levels.
Oh, no, totally. Meeting people at conventions and online, and our linking point here is Star Wars, but we're opening on a film. We've always got so much more in common than you could ever imagine. It's just finding that that opening point. And with Rental Family, I was completely unaware. I knew about the cuddling stuff in Japan and the mourning. You can hire people to go to mourn at your funeral, but I was unaware that there were people who were essentially carers who played a role very specifically in your life as a family member, who offered people this comfort and this sort of opening an in into people's lives. Really, really magic, really, to see how such authenticity can be created in the most constructive moments, and how feelings can develop in something where you're apparently acting. It was really special, really great film. I obviously don't want to spoil too much of it for people. I think in America it's 21st of January, and in UK 16th even. But yeah, it was really special to see and really resonated with me heavily.
I know something that, and actually I think it had come out here a few weeks ago.
Oh, really?
As we were recording. But it was something I thought that, one, it was nice to take family to, because a lot of times now, especially in the genres that we kind of cover, a lot of what really makes a blow at the box office are, big budget, Marvel, Star Wars, that kind of thing. So sometimes I think it's nice to go see I think it was a very powerful story, but it wasn't necessarily, like with all the CGI and things. But I did like I think you kind of saw a slice of life there. And I can only imagine those who were lucky enough to go to Celebration Japan probably saw some of that, where the little alleyways, the cornerways, the cornerways, little daily slices of life where, and I think even ours, it's just ordinary. And I think I liked seeing that. And I thought, once again, it was a story that resonated across folks, but also it's just, like I said, I think with conventions, right, there's this high and low. We go, when we met in July, there's so much, but then it's just, you kind of go back And I think sometimes it is kind of hard for folks to adjust. I know there's a lot in that phrase there, but I just thought, like I said, the movie really kind of resonated with me. It was great to see just the daily life, and yeah, it's just, I think we go from sometimes convention to convention, and it's just that up and down, and sometimes it's maybe hard a little bit to regulate daily life.
Yeah, no, totally. One of the things I really loved about it as well was the subject matter being so serious and so deep, and so much pathos in it, right? But it was never cynical. It was never unkind. It was never relenting in optimism, And I think in the times that we live in, that's pretty rare, when you think about with social media, negativity garnering clicks, and that's how people make their money. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting and special that there was this complete juxtaposition between like the tone of the film and the subject matter and how they managed to keep that feel very real and still optimistic.
Exactly. And it is also kind of funny that, like a surprise there, our meeting was sort of a surprise because we're kind of moving through now. The one thing I would say about London Film and Comic Con, like most cons, right? There is, it's usually in sort of a square rectangle, and there's sort of a circular path. And all of a sudden, here's you with a group of folks. And all of a sudden, it's like a very quick meet and greet. And then all of a sudden, I'm seeing you on the stage talking to Alex Ferns, which I didn't realize was one of your first times in kind of hosting a panel per se, where you're kind of trying to interview. Can you kind of talk about how that kind of came together? And
Yeah,
was it as whirlwind as I kind of imagined?
well, I in the May applied to be a creator for MCM Comic Con. A long-term attendee for the last sort of 4 or 5 years, loved it, but I'd never been a creator before. And I decided upon getting that creator pass that I was going to make as much content as I possibly could while there and involve myself with all the community stuff that I always go and see, like panels and meets and things like that. So we had a hyper focus on social media. So I made a panel at MCM Comic Con about social media analytics and how to understand them. It's a very confusing landscape and ever changing. And it went down really well. And I was actually surprised how well it did go down. Off the back of that, and my online presence being sort of like focused around Star Wars, I got in contact with LFCC when I saw they had some guests coming up from Star Wars and said, "Hey, just done this panel. I wondered if maybe I could come and talk to some of your guests." And to my absolute surprise, they're like, "Yeah, do you want to do a panel?" Because I thought they'd just sort of let me come along and chat to people and do little videos and stuff. But they asked me to do this Andor panel with Alex Ferns, as you say, and Nick Blood, who also played an Imperial in the first season of Andor. Um, I was absolutely not prepared for that. I arrived with like a big book full of questions, but it was my first time ever speaking to talent, as you'd say, and only my second time on stage doing any kind of panel. So yeah, it was totally whirlwind, like you felt, and that's probably very much the vibe I gave because I kind of couldn't believe it was happening at the time, and it was something I'd always sort of fancied myself as doing, but never really saw a pathway. So when this sort of opportunity arose, I was like, well, whatever you do, go for it, attack it with enthusiasm.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and from what I saw, there was no way I could tell you hadn't done it before, because I know that I think you could do it, and I talked to Mark about this. I think you could do it a lot, but it really kind of boils down to what the talent is feeling at that moment. And I think it was tough because I don't think Alex had really done much of anything before.
Oh man.
It was, fairly still early in the day, and
first thing in the day. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You gotta kind of get, you gotta set the plate. You've kind of get them going. There's a lot that you have to do. But
Let's not dance around it, Greg. Like, it was hard going. It was hard going. Whatever reason, I've done like a number of interviews with people now, so I've sort of been able to contextualize it. But like, for whatever reason, it wasn't a day Alex was having a good time, and maybe he didn't want to be interviewed. Maybe he felt the questions were inane. Maybe we just didn't click as people, or it was too early in the morning. It's all these myriad of factors. But yeah, me and Alex didn't pop it off, I don't think, although we got through the interview. It was very kind to say that you couldn't tell I hadn't done it before. And I managed to have a fair chat with Nick as well. But yeah, it was really hard work. I remember coming off of that, and because it was the first thing we'd done all day, and thinking, oh my God, maybe that's my one chance, and I've blown it. You know.
Well, and also I'm wondering, once you kind of finished that, right? And I think getting that under your belt was probably just, you're so relieved. But I'm curious, when you went into your next one, because I think you started doing a couple more after that. What was it you took into that one that maybe now it's like, okay, I've got my pet set, but what was your goals going into that very next time you did it, and how did it go?
So at LFCC, I was lucky because I still had video interviews to do. And as much as I said to my partner, maybe I shouldn't do them, she would not let me not do them. And I'm really glad because they were fantastic with Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder and the lady's name who plays the Night Sister, Gerald Prescott, and of course Robert Timothy Smith. They went fantastic, and that very much sort of soothed me, and I felt confident, and the reaction to them were great. When I went into my next thing after that, what was it? So the next thing after that was a relatively local con, NorCon, and I was like, right, I was no panel for that. It was video interviews with Simon Williamson, who's a puppeteer from Dark Crystal and does Max Rebo, Mike Quinn, who's just a Muppet legend and a puppet legend, did animation for Toy Story 2, and Duncan Powell, who plays Melshi and Andor. And they were all video interviews. And I thought to myself, well, the video interviews were the most solid part of what I did the first time around. Same again. And and I interviewed as well with some artists and stuff as well, like Jay Manchart, who does Topps cards and stuff, like really amazing, wonderful artist, wonderful guy. Yeah, I was just like, just do what I did last time around for that. I knew that I had MCM coming up. And at that point, I was set to do 2 more sort of like create a stage panels. I hadn't officially confirmed the job for the stage hosting. So yeah, I just went into those video interviews and was like, same again, please. But when it came to the MCM stage hosting and doing the whole weekend, it was completely different. And I almost segregate from that point onwards as almost like what I did before was sort of like having a try, dipping my toe, and then it was about professionalism and making, I'm being paid to do this as a job. I need to make sure I get this right. And having had that experience right at the very start, I was prepared and I knew how things could go wrong. And I knew how I had to be nimble and quick,
I'm also curious, since, you've been working with MCM, maybe going a little bit behind the curtain with some of the audience, like, how is it to the lead up, and then do they tell you like, oh, you're going to be doing this and this, and then when you get there, how do you deal with, do you go to see the talent beforehand? How do you lead me up to where you get on stage from the point outside the door to inside the door?
As I say, NorCon was probably about 3 weeks before MCM, 2 weeks before, and it was still sort of, they'd said to me, oh, would you like to do it? I was like, absolutely. And then it was like, well, can you cost it for us? I had no idea how to do that. So I had to talk to some people I knew. And then when I did that, there was waiting. And this is one of the things that I've really learned, that like as a freelancer is just the norm. But for the first few times, it feels so nerve-wracking. Didn't hear anything for like 2 weeks or whatever it was. And like it's a week to the con. I haven't announced that I'm going to be doing this thing yet. So I don't feel confident in announcing it because I haven't signed a contract or whatever. Just waiting and being patient. And it obviously eventually turns up. From there, I had sort of like a week, 2 weeks where I was linked in with the guests. So I have a point of contact, Dan Jones, wonderful man, really, really great. He would then send an email between me and the talent, introducing, saying, hey, here's Luke. I would then say, hey, what is it you want to get from this conversation? Obviously, I've done my own research. I go through and check everyone out. If I didn't know them already, have a look at what they've done, other interviews. But I'd ask what it is that they really want people to take away from it, Yeah, so, and then on the day, I'll usually link up with people potentially half hour before, or if we've made plans to meet during a break I've got or whatever, just reiterate, make sure people are comfortable with the stage and the setup. Because again, from that first experience, one of the things I realized is I walked up to that stage, sat on it, and that was the first time I'd been on it and sat near it. And like, for me personally, I need time. I need to get adjusted to my surroundings. I need to know what to expect. So whenever I'm talking to people, I'm saying, hey, if you want to come over and just hang out for a bit and get used to the environment, or vibe check the conversation between me and you off stage, I think that anything I can do to get people feel a level of comfort or a degree of familiarity is really useful.
And I think perhaps even the Alex interview, to a certain extent, may be the gift that keeps on giving, because I think it probably gave you the expectation afterwards that going, you know what, you could get nothing, you could get zero, or there may be some folks, and I'm not saying across the spectrum of are they a big actor or a small actor. I think, are they into that thing they're doing, or are they going through the motions? But you have to go, all right, if I go with the expectation that I may be talking to a stone, I'm just going to throw that. I'm not being mean, but I'm just saying, like, I have to be prepared to, the fans have to be almost a bit oblivious to this, not being mean. But I also have to go, I have to be prepared with questions that might draw something out, or I go, all right, do you also maybe even have fallback going, all right, this is going really quick, really fast. Let me switch to maybe this line so that I can kind of keep them kind of going.
Yeah, and having that contact beforehand with the person, again, I'm feeling them out as much as they're feeling me out, and knowing what their aim or their focus is as well. Suddenly you've got a much better grasp as to who they are as a person, what it is they want to do. And if you've watched interviews before of them, then you can add that in as well. Yeah, there have been times since where I've got on stage and it has gone entirely different to the way we'd maybe discussed and I'd thought. But because I've got this sort of like perimeter, sorry, of who they are and what they're doing and what they'd like to get across, I can move within it a lot more freely. Essentially that first experience, as you say, it does keep giving, because I turned up, I knew Alex Ferns from his stuff on TV, I knew Nick Blood from his stuff on TV, and I went in there naively and assumed we're going to talk about the things that I want to talk about. It was very rigid and naive, but it's much more of an exchange. It's much more, and the best guests as well. They ask questions about what you're doing as well. Maybe not necessarily on stage, but the connections I've had with some guests, some have become friends. They're interested in what you're doing, how you got to where you are, and it's much more human connection.
Oh, that's cool. And yeah, especially when you're interviewed, it's like, yeah, you could do a sort of a paint by numbers, but I think if you can pick up on them, I think there is a skill to, especially there's a difference between like doing what we're doing. You're my focus, but if there is a crowd there, then not only do I have to kind of keep them sort of engaged and keep kind of nodding to them, but then not lose sight of what the talent is saying, and also trying to think in my head, what I must have notes, because what are the next thing I'm going to say? It's almost like this carousel of like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So it's almost like a bit of a waltz.
As well. Yeah,
Exactly.
Exactly what you said there. Is this carousel, and in amongst it, I'm looking at the time as well, and I'm trying to gauge whether we're going fast or slow, or where we could elaborate on points. Sometimes, sometimes with some of the talent now that I'm talking to, you have to give your questions in advance. For the agents to check over, or the talent to look at, or even for the convention, just to be like sure that you are on point and okay. With that, first time I did it, I was very rigid with it again, because I'm like, stick to the rules. That's just, now I know, if they say something that's interesting, I can still go down that line, and again, you'll read between yourselves and everything, whether you have to withdraw or stay. But yeah, it's the crowd is definitely a factor, but more recently, the way that I'm playing it, it becomes a real positive factor more than an anxiety. I was really lucky at Birmingham that we had so many sort of popular and currently relevant sort of games and actors and artists, because the people who turned up, they turned up and you could feel the excitement. People in cosplay, people chattering amongst themselves. You hear people talking, and before the event saying, I hope they ask this, hope you do that, etc. So I'd go and involve myself with the crowd. I'd go and chat with people. Hello, lovely cosplay, etc. Is there anything you're hoping that we're going to touch on? Trying to feed into that energy, and yeah, it was the best one yet. I'm not going to lie. Like, it obviously you expect it to get better each time, but I do think it's that leaning into the crowd now and understanding that it's fully 3D here. It's you got to make sure that the talent and the person on stage with you is comfortable, and that you're interviewing them in a way which is getting the best out of them, but also you're the conduit for the fans. And sometimes what I'm talking to people about isn't necessarily a thing that I'm a mega fan of, but they're mega fans, and I'm on stage as a representative of them, and I've got to make sure that they get the information they want out of it, the entertainment they want out of it, which is why I put the research in, which is why I engage with people who love these things. If it's something I'm just a casual fan of, so yeah, bringing them in on it in a way has really sort of expanded out a lot of what I do.
And also, on the other hand, if that panel allows for questions from the audience, now there is a wild card that can go many different ways, but at the end of the day, you kind of have to channel their enthusiasm, but also maybe kind of either by prepping beforehand or kind of maybe gently guiding during the question and answer phase to go, here's what we're going to do. And then maybe even at some point kind of paraphrasing, I think what you're trying to ask is this. So that way the talent's trying to sit there like, what is he saying? And do I remember everything about that?
That's a whole other skill, one that I had to pick up again very quickly. So in London, my first time around doing questions and answers, it was very mechanical. It was very much, here's the question, person answers. It's the first time I'd done it. But in Birmingham, I felt like a degree of fluidity with it. Little things like I'd ask, and it's so silly to say, I'd ask the person their name. I'm holding the mic away. They'd tell me their name. I say, question from Greg. Gives them time to think. They want to talk to this person. Maybe this is their entire aim of the convention, to get this question in. Gives them that millisecond to compose themselves and think, instead of me just passing the mic over and then go, and then sort of being a bit, the energy not being as calm, But yeah, sometimes you pass the mic over, and unfortunately, maybe the mic technique isn't very good, and the guy on stage or the lady on stage can't hear them, or maybe they didn't come with so much a question, but a parable about their life and how the person's work has influence something, which again is beautiful, but we're on a time schedule here,
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, it's been another facet of learning, but it just adds such a string to the bow. My favorite one we did over the weekend, the Q&As, when we went to the audience, was Damien Hass, who he's a voice actor, and he's a comedian, an improv, and a streamer. He works on Smosh on the YouTube channel, and he did Delicious in Dungeon, which the anime, the voice for that. And the questions from the audience, because he does such a broad array of things, was so brilliant. And every so often in the middle, I was like, we've had 2 in a row here. I'm thinking about voice acting. I say, has anyone got a question about a particular thing from Smosh or something like that, or about Damien's streaming? And suddenly I feel like I'm conducting an orchestra more than I'm scurrying about and just passing a mic to someone and hoping that they say something appropriate,
Yeah, and I think and you get, if you have that, you're working kind of the crowd and they're going through and everybody kind of has a good time, then it's like it just kind of keeps that momentum going, rather as it just maybe kind of pauses down a bit and all of a sudden you're like, all right, now I've got to recover. How many shows to you are sort of, obviously as many as you can, but as we have found over the last, several years, they're cropping up more and more out of the woodwork. How do you even decide which ones you should focus on and how many that you should pitch? Maybe even thinking that I want to put my name out there more in case I don't get it, but I want to make sure that my work is steady and I'm getting what I need to get out of this.
I'm not sure if what I'm about to say is the right thing to say, because I'm so new to this, and bear in mind it's been 7 months, since, or 8 months or whatever, since July, and that was really my first experience of this. Since May, sorry, and that was really my first experience of this. As it stands right now, the way I'm doing it is I'm really lucky in that I've obviously got this good relationship at the moment with MCM Comic Con.
Mm-hmm.
That is booked on a show-by-show basis. There's no guarantee that I'm getting May. I do have a meeting scheduled for January to talk about 2026, but they could say, thank you, no thank you. But in my mind, although it's not guaranteed, those are sort of the staples. I've got May, I've in London. I've got October in London, and then there's August as well, which is going to be in Birmingham. They've changed the schedule. Around that, I've got independent projects that I want to do for videos online and things like that. Things where the production value is going to be a little bit higher to try and showcase what I can do. Visits to places that produce things and produce parts for films and things that I love. Carry on talking to the people that make the things that I love and who spotlight their work. As much as anything. But in terms of just shows, it's difficult because let's say a particular guest comes up and I would love to talk to that guest. Well, I'm definitely shooting that show an email. Maybe they've got a host already, maybe they don't.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a case of payment, because I'm trying to make this my life. I'm very lucky to get some paid work. Well, you don't want to race to the bottom. You've got to value what you're doing. But at the same point, if someone says to me, hey, you can interview Pedro Pascal, but it's free, I think I'm going to end up taking it, unfortunately. Do you know what I mean? But really, I should be paid for it because everyone should be paid for their work. And if you're getting paid elsewhere, you should hold that standard. But I'm really feeling my way through it at the moment, mate. I've got a long-term goal that I'd love to achieve because my original long-term goal was to maybe one day get to do it at MCM, and this has unbelievably happened. So it's ever moving, ever shifting. But yeah, I'd love to get involved with some of the shows that I've had relationships with as a creator, and I'd love to talk to very specific guests. But I'm totally feeling my way through this at the moment, and I'm getting advice from people all the time, and I'm really lucky that in the UK here, all of the hosts that I've met, all of the creators that I've met who do similar sort of stuff, everyone's been so accommodating and so kind. There's not this vibe of competitiveness or of this guy's trying to steal my job. It's of sharing and collaboration and, hey, here's what I learned and what I want to tell you. And it's wonderful, mate. It's really appreciated as someone who's, come into this relatively late. I'm 37, and a lot of these guys have been doing it since they're 20s, So yeah, incredible.
Well, and also what I've kind of enjoyed in seeing on your Instagram channel is talking to folks, not only about your experience, but about theirs potentially, as far as, we could be doing that. I've been doing the podcast for 6-7 years, but it's not a competition, but there's only so much time in the day, for someone's ears or for someone's eyeballs. And also there's a lot of content that we kind of swim in that, I know I'm classically trained in this, but you go, you know what, somebody goes out there and dances a little better than me. And trust me, everybody can dance better than me. There's not a correlation sometimes to maybe quality versus quantity, but you want to make sure that the content you're doing, right, is good and is something that's going to help people. I've enjoyed seeing some of those where you're going look, don't pay attention to this or this. Do what you enjoy. I think because people see, can tell your passion, can suss out right away if someone is not genuine, or and you have to. You're look, if I'm going to make a go of this, I want to make it an honest effort. They can see my work. They know where I'm coming from. And I think I like where you're coming from. That's if I can say it.
Thank you, man. Well, that to me is the best compliment, right? Because in the times in which we're living in, where with total respect, because I'm one of these guys, anyone can pick up a microphone and anyone can ask a question, and there's all kinds of pressures from social media to do it a certain way, or to gain an amount of followers, or to follow these sort of pre-described methods that apparently lead to their predefined success, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the luxury I've had in starting later as someone who's in his late 30s is that I don't really care about being cool. What I really want to do is talk to the people that I think are cool. One of the people I've spoke to that I think is going to live with me forever, because he's so wonderful, is Mike Quinn, who's the puppeteer in Dark Crystal, in the Muppets. He's Nine Numb. He's all these things from everything that I loved as a kid, and has been involved in like the things that have been the most influential on me, right? Muppet Christmas Carol, of course, it's the season for it, and it's like one of my favorite things of all time. And to have that conversation with him and to share about his work and to feel that warmth from him, and it was just like, well, like the conversation we're having now, it just feels authentic and genuine and comfortable to have that degree of comfort. I love that as just for me, right? But then I had people who were unaware of Mike Quinn but knew of all the productions that I'm listing in it, you know, have watched Toy Story, have watched The Muppets or Fraggle Rock or Star Wars, and they're saying, yeah, I had no idea who this chap was, but you've made me interested in what he does. And again, to me, like you're saying about you like the way I'm doing it, like that's the same sort of compliment to me. They're going, hey, you've pulled me in here. You've made me interested in this specific element. They're not like a super fan who knows everyone on the production, but now I'm thinking about it and I'm going, oh yeah, I'd like to know who did the costumes or whatever. I've had people ask me if I've spoken to anyone who's done costumes or anyone who's done props, or engaging people in that way is so much more impactful than engaging sheer numbers, dots and digits, you know. And while you need dots and digits to succeed, theoretically, if you've got that and you've got no impact, in my opinion, you've got very little.
Exactly. And I think also, you know, although you were, you know, still within the first year of this, you're going to see these people again and again. And I do think that, you know, your, you know, resume also goes with people's memories of going, oh, I remember seeing this guy, or, oh, I remember we talking to before. And I know, and Mark Newbold and I talk about this all the time, where it's like, it's circular, and you come back and then those follow-up interviews, or maybe the second or third time, become interesting, but also different, because now, okay, well, we talked about this last time. I want to keep you engaged, but let's, you know, so it's amazing where they build upon each other, but it's still.
I've had a couple of interviews where I've realized midway through they've dropped something that they shouldn't have because it's not come out yet. And it's for the same production, both these interviews, and I never picked them up on it. I never asked them about it, and I made sure we left it out of, you know, what's going online, because I want to maintain relationships professionally, not just with the individuals, but with the companies. But when it comes out, I can't wait to be like, hey, tell me please all about this, because you dangled the carrot 7 months ago, and I kept quiet, but now I need to know. And it's that building on that relationship, right? And I guess, like, we're talking about the crowd, and we're talking about all the preamble and stuff and the build up to it and the comfort levels. As much as it's about performing to the audience and performing to camera and stuff like that, it's really about relationships, which I find really interesting, because I'm autistic, and I actually really struggle with interpersonal relationships. I'm not very good at small talk, which seems a crazy thing to say. I'm not comfortable chatting with people casually. But there's something about the framework of doing this on stage. There's something about the framework of doing it on camera where it provides a level of predictability and an unspoken set of rules which give me complete comfort. It's really weird. And I was really chuffed, because when I was talking to Damien Haas at Birmingham, off his own back, he was talking about the same sort of thing, because he's autistic as well, but he was talking about improv and how you wouldn't expect that an autistic person could pick up on all the social dynamics and unwritten rules and cues that are involved with that, right? And yeah, it just got me thinking about these structures that facilitate people who have challenges in other areas, like myself, you know, to do the exact same thing but in a different area, you know. And I'm so grateful for that, so unbelievable grateful for that, because it means that I can get to know these people, you know, in a way that, honestly, if I saw them out and about, I don't think I'd, or even in a social situation, you know, I wouldn't be able to hold that conversation.
Wow. And yeah, and I think, like, it goes back to, like, kind of, you know, as we're kind of wrapping up about where this starts, it's going, relationships, whether you're talking in a galaxy far, far away, or you're talking about, you know, the person, your neighbor, and especially during this time, are so important. And I think as long as we keep working towards them, right? I think
Totally.
if, going into the holiday season, which I know can be a carousel of emotion for folks. And, as, some who maybe have large families, some have large, no families, but it's just, there's something about this community. It's important. And although, I kind of, although I walk away with a lot of cons, with stuff, it ain't about the stuff, man. It's about the connections you make. It's about when I go to LFCC and I already knew a bunch of people, but I'd never met them in person. And all of a sudden I'm going, oh my God, you got legs. You've got legs. I'm normally just seeing you from the Zoom up, but now it's like, oh, I could go back to there because I know that, or I could go to this one, or I know that, even if I'm going to a place, I've got a microphone. I'm like, look, I'm getting out of a little comfort zone. Like I'm used to talking to people, and I worked at Apple. So I mean, I can talk to complete strangers, but I'm like, I should never take it for granted, but I'm always like, look, I'm always thinking about how can I make it better? How can I make my relationships better? How can I try and meet more people? Because as you keep alluding to, as we get older, it gets harder to make friends. Your circles tend to decline. Except
I've been so lucky with that though, mate, because I didn't go to my first convention until I was 33, I think. It might have been 32, but 32, 33. October 2021. And, like you say, most of my friends, it is the same experience that, like, from that age onwards, you've got your friends and you're not really going to add to it other than work colleagues and stuff like that. But since I started going to conventions, I've had nothing but the most brilliant interactions with the most brilliant of people who we all have a shorthand of understanding one another because we care so passionately about these things unashamedly in a way that I'd never experienced before, From 13 onwards, I was trying to hide that I liked reading my comics and playing with Lego and my action figures still, By the time I got to 19, I was lying to myself, telling myself that I'd never pick up these things again, But being able to share unashamedly in the things in which we love with people that we barely know and have that shorthand, full circle here, like you're saying with Rental Family, it's that shorthand to go straight in and make these connections, and you learn so much more about people than just who their favorite Jedi is. You learn so much more about people's lives than, when they first watched Star Wars. And yeah, it's actually really special. It's really special and really moving, especially as a lot of people that I have come in contact with have had similar isolating experiences when younger, or have, or similarly are neurodivergent, or have just had a hard time of some sort. And here we are, all sharing this thing, all loving this thing, and all doing our own thing and supporting one another. It's crazy. It's crazy. And like I said, that bubble of conventions and fandom space, and then you said earlier having to go back. That's why it's so difficult, because it's such a stark difference to how the real world can be, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that's a great kind of note to sort of kind of end on, because I know it is that time of the year. But like Palpatine said, I will be watching your career with great interest. It was great to make that connection with you. It's fun watching your career. Like I said, it's fun for me. It's hard for you, but I think you're gonna go fire, and I like the passion that you have. Just so as we wrap up, can you tell people where they can find you online and connect with you if they need to hire you for a gig, or they just want to follow you stuff on the socials?
Oh yeah, please do hire me for gigs. That would be wonderful. But also just reach out and say hello, because I love yapping in these structures that work for me. So yeah, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok. I like that Wookie. 1E. I'm aware it's a misspell. I'm aware someone had taken the double E, so I'm Wookie with 1E. So yeah, I like that Wookie is my username across all platforms.
Excellent. All right, well, Luke, pleasure getting a chance to talk with you. We're going to have to definitely connect next year, get you back on the program.
Please.
Because I'm kind of curious as these shows become more and more. Who are you talking to and how are you talking to them? And I just want to wish you happy holidays and thank you very much for being on.
Thank you, mate, and happy holidays to you and yours too. Hope you have a great time.
I'd like to check out, refuel my Ship, prepare for my immediate departure.
Once again, I want to thank Luke for being on the program. It was a pleasure to get a chance to talk with him. Great conversation, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. Alrighty, we are marching towards that episode 200, and that should be a fun one to put together, but we may have a couple other surprises left for the year. So stick around, stay tuned. I'm going to let Card Squadron take it out, and we'll talk to you soon.
The Rebel Base Card podcast focuses on cards, collecting, and the Star Wars community, and appreciates you coming along for the ride.
If you have any feedback for this episode, you can reach out to the program in a number of ways. You can leave a comment on the Instagram post for this episode. You can also DM Greg on Instagram at Rebel Base Card.
Make sure to also follow the Rebel Base Card on Twitter and Facebook at Rebel Base Card. If you want, you can send an email to greg@rebelbasecard.com.
And you can find show notes for this and all episodes on the website rebelbasecard.com. In the Star Wars Card Trader app and just about every other one, you can find Greg at CornFedTech.
The Rebel Base Card uses the hashtag Card Squadron as a way to alert friends about cool cards and recent drops in the galaxy far, far away. It's a great way to bring our community a little bit closer together and help one another finish our sets in time. We collect, communicate, and commiserate. Well, at least when we run out of credits or crystals to spend on our digital collections. Join the fun, even if all the other cool squadron names were already taken. And remember, we collect as one and would be honored if you join us.
And if you are a sketch card artist, or Star Wars artist or collector, cosplayer, and want to talk about your work, your craft or passion, drop Greg a line. I'm sure he'd love to hear your story. You can also help the show by leaving a comment or review on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you got this episode.
Otherwise, the mission is clear. Keep those cards out of the hands of the Empire, and the Rebel Base Card will return soon.
This podcast is not affiliated in any way with Topps, Disney, or Star Wars, nor is it endorsed by Disney or Lucasfilm, and is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. All names and sounds and any other related items are properties of their respective trademarks and or copyright holders here in the U.S. and abroad. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com.
That's it.